Hey guys, welcome back to today's video. Today is Sunday, July 12th, 2020, and today I'm going to be taking a look at the 2020 electoral map based purely on polling data. So I know a number of new polls have been released, and since today I discussed Texas being ahead for Joe Biden on the overall average, which is the first time in a very long time the Democrats have even come close to leading in the state of Texas, I've decided to make this map based purely on the data that is provided from FiveThirtyEight. So I know I've done this in the past using RCP, but moving ahead in the future, I'll probably use FiveThirtyEight given the fact that they account for a number of statistical errors and move a lot of the data down or up, depending on which way that it is, incorrectly weighted. If we look back at 2016, they did this with the 2016 election data, so we actually had a better view of how states were going to go based off that data, but I'm going to be using FiveThirtyEight probably for a lot of my analysis from now on. I know a lot of the people on election YouTube really like RCP, but I will say that FiveThirtyEight tends to include more polls and rate them based off of their accuracy and obviously historical accuracy and their methodology. So I just think all around FiveThirtyEight is probably the way to go. So I'm going to probably be doing this updated 2020 polling map every so often. I did one about just a couple of weeks ago that showed the electoral map based off polls, and I'll probably do these once a month. Once we get closer to the election, probably bi-weekly updates, but it's 4 months away, so not much is going to change in terms of the regular upload schedule. So looking at the numbers here, I'm not going to characterize the states that don't have any data in. We obviously know how they're going to go. I'll switch them over right at the end of the video. That way you can see the overall final electoral vote count, but I'm going to leave it off for the majority of the video. So let's actually go ahead and start alphabetically from Alabama all the way over to Wyoming. Surprisingly, Wyoming has no data, but we obviously know how that one's going to go. Alabama, Trump is ahead by 15.3%, so I'm going to actually go ahead and keep the ratings that I normally use. So 15% and above is safe, 5 to 15% is likely, 1 to 5% is lean, and then anything less than 1% is tilt. I'll probably actually put that in my YouTube bio from now on in the description, so that way people won't get confused about what ratings I use. I've been pretty consistent with that since 2017. Alaska goes to Trump by 10.5%, which is really surprising. I really expected Trump to have a more commanding lead, but obviously after that new data that just got released, it does make sense that it would move down to the likely column. In the state of Arizona, Joe Biden leads by 2.4%. Not as strong as a lead in the past, but still a lead regardless. That comes out after the new YouGov poll shows a tie in that race. In Arkansas, Trump only leads by 2%. I know that's a little bit surprising. It's Arkansas. It's a solid Republican state, but the data shows that it's closer. So may or may not be. We're counting on that it's not. In California, Joe Biden leads by 29.7%, so 30% of the vote in that state. In Colorado, this joins the safe Democratic column with a 17.3% lead for Joe Biden over Donald Trump. Moving over to Connecticut, it's a very similar margin there, an 18-point margin for Joe Biden. And in Delaware, actually, Colorado is more safe for the Democrats than Delaware, even though Delaware is where Joe Biden served as a senator from. The District of Columbia has no polling data. That makes sense. It's 3 solid electoral votes, has never voted for a GOP candidate ever. The only part of the country that has electoral votes that can say that. In the state of Florida, 6.2-point lead for Joe Biden. I think that's very strong, very commanding. It's 29 electoral votes, went to Trump in 2016. The fact that it's likely is very bad news for President Trump. As we move over into the state of Georgia, Joe Biden surprisingly leads by 1.1%. I know it's surprising to see. Georgia's normally close, but it doesn't look like it will be in this election. It looks like it's going to be close. It doesn't look like it's going to be close as in a GOP victory. They narrowly edge out the victories there. The Democrats usually peak off around 48, 49% in statewide races and never really come close enough to actually clinching the 16 electoral votes in Georgia. It looks like Biden has that right now. In Hawaii, there is no data. Idaho and Illinois, it seems to be in that alphabetical order that there's no data, surprisingly. Whatever. It doesn't really make a difference. Those states are all safe for their respective parties. In Indiana, Trump leads by 11.5%, so this one actually narrows down from 2016. In Iowa, Trump only leads by 0.4%, so it actually goes to the GOP, but very narrowly. In the state of Kansas, Trump only has an 8.9% lead. I think that's also something to note, considering that Kansas is a traditional Republican state, has never been within, double digits, and other than I think after the year 2000, so it is important to know that Kansas has actually narrowed up. In Kentucky, Trump wins here by 17%. That's actually roughly the same margin Mitch McConnell leads Amy McGrath in that state, which I think is just coincidental. In Louisiana, we have no real data, so we have nothing to characterize there. In the state of Maine, Joe Biden actually leads by 10% on the overall average, and if you're wondering about Maine's 2nd congressional district, Biden actually leads there by 3% according to the most recent poll out. So I think that's fascinating given how Republican it was in 2016. In Maryland, Biden leads by 24.5%. No surprise there. In Massachusetts, a 36-point lead for Vice President Biden. In Michigan, a 9.6-point lead in this state. Very interesting. I mean, it's a Trump state from 2016. Minnesota, Biden plus 11. In Mississippi, Trump leads by 12%. I think that's also pretty interesting. I mean, Mississippi is traditionally a safe Republican state, but if you look at the 2008 margin, it was a 10-point margin for McCain, and then within 15% in 2012. So it is possible that the state does narrow up, but it was within the safe column for Donald Trump in 2016. So again, a number of things to throw in, a lot of variables there. African-American turnout is definitely key for the Democrats to even narrow down that race. As we move over into Missouri, Trump only has a 2.5% lead in that state. I think that's really interesting given how solid of a Republican state it has been in the past. Again, a lot of these states are showing closer margins than they probably will end up, but just looking at the data is always fun to do. In Montana, Trump actually has a 12-point lead here. At one point in time, obviously Montana would have been rated as a safe Republican state. But based off this data, it seems that it's a likely state. I'm probably still going to characterize it as safe, maybe likely at a low point for President Trump, but he's probably going to win there by over 15% on Election Day. In Nebraska, there is no data, but there is data in Nebraska's 2nd congressional district. Biden actually leads there by, by 11%. So that goes into the likely Democratic column. As for Nevada, Biden actually has a very strong 8.6-point lead in this state. It's actually 1 point lower than the state of Michigan, but both Michigan and Minnesota and Nevada, which are all competitive races from 2016, all are in the likely Democratic column. Actually, Florida included. Moving over to New Hampshire, Joe Biden has a strong lead here with an 8.3% lead over Donald Trump. In New Jersey, Donald Trump is underwater in this state, 22% lead for Joe Biden. In New Mexico, Biden has an 11.6% lead over Donald Trump, another likely state. What's surprising is that Colorado is actually further to the left than New Mexico. This did not happen in 2016. Obviously, Colorado could narrow up before Election Day, but based off the current trends for President Trump, he very well could be in a world of trouble, not only in Colorado or New Mexico, but in Arizona and neighboring Texas. New York is a 26% margin for Joe Biden's lead over Donald Trump. In North Carolina, Joe Biden actually leads by 3.4%. So that's a lean state, but still enough to characterize their 15 electoral votes for Joe Biden. In North Dakota, Trump has a 19-point lead. In Ohio, surprisingly, the state hasn't been wrong for over 60 years. Ohio goes to Joe Biden by 2.5%, what puts him over the top at 273 electoral votes. Ohio went to Trump by 9% in 2016. No data in Oregon, but there is data in Pennsylvania, the next state on the list, a 7.5% lead for Joe Biden in this state. Very, very strong. In Rhode Island, no data there. Moving over into South Carolina. Surprisingly, Donald Trump, not with a safe margin, a 7.2% lead over Joe Biden. As we move over to South Dakota, no data. Tennessee has Trump ahead by 10.7%. So this race actually likely again. Texas, Biden actually leads here. I made a video about this morning. You can go ahead and check that out on the channel. Biden leads here by 0.1%. That's a solid 38 electoral votes that are crucial to the GOP's victories in the past. Utah, 7.9% lead for Donald Trump. I mean, his lead seems to be crippling in a number of these solid GOP states. Vermont has no data. Virginia shows Trump ahead. Sorry, not Trump ahead. That'd be surprising. Shows Biden ahead by 11.2%. So that one has moved further left than we even thought before. Washington, a 25-point margin for Joe Biden. Wisconsin, an 8-point lead for Joe Biden, so it's a likely Democratic state. As for West Virginia, Trump, of course, wins here by a very solid margin, 35-point lead in the most recent poll, and no data in the state of Wyoming. So this is the final map. Donald Trump wins 102 electoral votes, and Joe Biden wins the presidency with 366, with 63 electoral votes deducted from the overall count. Now, obviously, looking at this map, it may seem surprising that I don't classify some of these no data states. I'll do it really quickly. That way you can get a general idea of the eventual results, but I'm going to have to go ahead and revert those once we finish up. So these are all of the Democratic states, which means Joe Biden would get 407 electoral votes, which means that Donald Trump would, lose in the largest landslide for the Democratic Party since 1964. I believe. So Joe Biden currently leads in, oh shoot, I forgot Oklahoma. What is wrong with me? Oklahoma has Trump ahead by 23.6%. I don't know why I didn't see that exact gray point. I was realizing that now. But Trump wins 131 electoral votes. Biden remains at 407, but still very, very commanding lead for Joe Biden over Donald Trump. I don't know why I mixed them up. But let's go ahead and characterize all of the no data states. That way we can finalize this map. I don't think that a lot of these states need polls that currently are characterized in yellow, but I will say that it is always informative just looking at the data to see if there's any type of surprises or any expected surprises on election day. So for the states that are classified with no data, we have to include Hawaii, and that's pretty much it. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure to comment down suggestions below. Please consider subscribing on the left if you haven't already, and check out our Instagram and our Twitter. Go ahead and check out the next video on your screen and then a playlist for my 2020 Senate election videos. I'm actually going to be releasing an election prediction sometime in the next couple of days. I do them bi-weekly now, so stay tuned for that. Again, thank you all for watching, and I will see you all tomorrow.